Hello friends. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. I had been a paramedic in Phoenix, Arizona for almost 8 years, and in that time, I developed what every medic eventually earns: a sixth sense. That quiet, subtle tug in your chest, warning you when a call isn't what it appears to be. Most nights in Phoenix were predictable: heat stroke victims, traffic collisions, drug overdoses behind gas stations, elderly patients short of breath. But on that Friday evening in late September, when dispatch sent my partner Tom Reyes and me to a fall injury on the 46th floor of a luxury high-rise in central Phoenix, something inside me tightened immediately. Rich people didn't call 911 for small injuries. They had concierge doctors, private nurses, and the kind of insurance that covered everything except dignity. Yet here we were, stepping into a marble lobby that looked like a museum exhibit, heading toward a penthouse that cost more per month than I made in 6. The elevator smelled like lemon polish and money. Tom was scrolling through the call notes on the tablet, frowning. "Caller says she slipped on the stairs," he muttered. "In a penthouse?" I asked. "Yeah. Says she needs immediate medical attention." I exhaled slowly. Something's off. Tom smirked. "When isn't it?" The elevator chimed and opened directly into the apartment. One of those exclusive setups where a coded key fob opens the doors right into the living room. The penthouse was immaculate. White walls, white furniture, tall glass windows overlooking the blazing Phoenix skyline. It felt sterile, as if no real human lived there. She was waiting for us on a cream-colored lounge chair, a woman in her mid-30s, dark auburn hair tied up, expensive silk lounge clothes, a towel pressed to her forehead. Even injured, she looked like she belonged in a perfume ad. "Thank you for coming," she said politely, but her voice trembled like she was holding something together with thread. Tom began asking the routine questions, while I knelt beside her, pulling on gloves. She told us her name was Lena Ashford, and that she lived alone. She'd been working on emails, then rushed downstairs for something, and slipped. The cut on her forehead was small, barely bleeding. It didn't match the panic in her voice. When I asked her to remove her cardigan so I could check for fractures, she hesitated. Just a flicker, before sliding it off. And that's when I saw them. Finger-shaped bruises along her upper arms. Purple, yellow, blue. Old bruises overlapped fresh ones like layers of a terrible secret she couldn't hide. My stomach clenched. "Lena, I need to check your ribs and back," I said carefully. She nodded, but she wouldn't look at me. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor, on nothing. When she lifted her silk top a little, my breath caught. Her left side was covered in more bruises, some circular, some long, some shaped like a boot. None had the chaotic pattern of a staircase fall. These were inflicted. Before I could say anything, she reached out and grabbed my wrist. Hard. "Please," she whispered, glancing toward the elevator doors. "We need to finish before he comes home." Her hand was ice cold. Too cold. Before I could speak, the elevator behind us chimed. Tom and I both turned. A man stepped out wearing a sheriff's deputy uniform. Tan shirt, polished boots, radio, and a badge. But something about it was wrong. The badge looked cheap. The shoulder patch was slightly off color. The belt looked like a prop. He walked with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. "Everything all right here, sweetheart?" he asked Lena. But he never once looked at her. He only looked at us. His smile was wide, unpracticed, unnatural. Lena's entire body stiffened. She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes and said, "Just a silly fall. They're helping me." He stepped closer, offering his hand to Tom, and then to me. "Deputy Mark Hollister," he introduced himself. His grip was firm, too firm. "We don't need you too much longer," he said casually. "My wife's fine." "Wife?" He said it like ownership. I kept my voice neutral. "We need to complete our assessment. County protocol." His smile faltered for half a second. A tiny glitch. Lena moved, placing herself subtly behind the coffee table, as if she had done it before. As if this was a routine dance she'd learned to survive, I tapped Tom's foot. Silent medic language. Something's very wrong. He understood instantly. I busied myself on the tablet, pretending to update vitals while quickly typing a request to dispatch. Verify badge number 45,271, possible impersonator. Send real law enforcement discreetly. Meanwhile, Tom asked Lena harmless questions, medications, allergies, pain level, just to keep her talking. Deputy Hollister never stopped watching us. Never. Not even to blink. The tablet vibrated with dispatch's response. I looked, then looked again. My hands went cold. No record of any deputy. Mark Hollister. Badge number invalid. Address flagged for prior incident. Domestic homicide. Apartment listed as unoccupied for 11 months. I slowly rotated the tablet so Tom could see. He stopped mid-sentence, jaw tightening. Hollister noticed. His smile melted away completely, revealing something cold and empty beneath. "I think it's time for you two to leave," he said quietly. Tom took a slow step toward Lena. "Ma'am, we need to transport you to the hospital head injury protocols." "It's not necessary," Hollister snapped. But Lena wasn't looking at him. She was staring directly at me. Her lips moved, I couldn't hear the words, but I read them clearly. Not alive. Not safe. "Help me!" The air felt heavier. The room felt colder. Tom unhooked his radio from his belt, holding it loosely at his side. Hollister's hand hovered over his holster, not touching it, but close enough to send a clear threat. I opened my mouth to speak, but something behind Hollister caught my attention. A dark stain on the white floor near the stairway. Barely visible. Old. Faded. Blood. Lena saw me looking. She gave the smallest nod. The entire room tightened into a silent standoff. Tom lifted his radio and spoke calmly. "Unit 7 requesting immediate assistance. Possible code 54. Hollister's face twisted with rage, no longer human in its control. "You shouldn't have done that," he hissed. He stepped toward Tom. That was the moment I grabbed Lena's arm. "We're leaving," I said. She didn't resist. She surged forward with terrifying urgency, her skin freezing against my hand. We moved toward the still-open elevator. Hollister lunged. Tom dodged him and dove into the elevator just as I shoved Lena inside and slammed the close doors button repeatedly. The doors began sliding shut. Slowly. Painfully. Slowly. Hollister's furious face appeared in the narrowing gap. Then the doors sealed. The elevator dropped. Lena collapsed against the wall, gasping, but not like a living person gasps. Her breaths didn't move her chest. There was no rhythm, no real need. Under the fluorescent lights, I noticed things I'd missed. Her skin wasn't pale. It was gray. Her eyes were cloudy, like fogged glass. Her lips had a faint blue tint. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow. Different. "He killed me," she whispered. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Last December. Right there on the stairs. He wasn't a real deputy. He just liked pretending. The power of it." Her voice wavered like radio static. "After he killed me, he stayed. Came back again and again. acting like everything was normal. And somehow I couldn't leave. I was stuck, calling for help. Over and over, Tom and I stared at her, frozen. The elevator reached the lobby, and Lena simply vanished. 1 second she was there. The next second, we were alone. Security footage later showed only Tom and me entering and exiting. No Lena. No Hollister. No one. The apartment upstairs was empty when police checked dust everywhere. Stain on the carpet exactly where the old case file had documented blood. Lena Ashford had been murdered almost a year earlier. Her boyfriend, real name Derek Cole, was a law enforcement obsessive who collected replica uniforms. He disappeared after the murder. Still wanted, still missing. I tried to shake it off, tried to convince myself stress had gotten to me. But I couldn't, because it wasn't the last time it happened. Other calls followed, different places, different victims, different tragedies, but always the same pattern. People calling from apartments where no one lived anymore. Victims still trapped in the moment they died, still begging for help. 6 months later, I quit. Everyone thought it was burnout. Too many traumatic calls. But the truth was more unsettling. I couldn't handle the idea that some people didn't stop calling for help, even after death. And sometimes, late at night, my phone still rings with nothing but static. Sometimes I think it's Lena. Sometimes I think she's trying to say thank you, but I never answer anymore. Some calls, you can only survive once. For months after Lena vanished in that elevator, I tried to live a normal life. I transferred to a quieter EMS station outside Phoenix, took less night shifts, and avoided high-rise calls altogether. But something had changed. It wasn't just fear. It was awareness. Like once you see the thin veil between the living and the dead, you can never unsee it again. At first, I thought it was trauma, hallucinations, burnout. But then the call started again. Not through dispatch, through my personal phone's silent numbers. No caller ID, just static on the other end. The same static I heard when Lena spoke her last words. I tried changing my number twice. Didn't matter. The calls followed, every single time. I reached a point where sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Closing my eyes meant hearing faint whispers, pleading, begging, desperate. Help! Help me! Please! But those voices weren't from memory. They were new. And then came the night everything changed. It was past 2 a.m., and I was finishing paperwork in the back of the ambulance Tom had been transferred out months ago. We barely talked now. I think the situation scared him more than he ever admitted. Outside, the desert wind rattled against the metal doors. It was one of those heavy nights where the heat sticks to your skin like wet cloth. My phone buzzed. Unknown caller. Static again. But this time, beneath the static, I heard something else. A location. Very faint, like a whisper buried underwater. Return. 46. Floor. My chest tightened. No, it couldn't be. I slammed the phone shut and tossed it onto the dashboard. But 2 minutes later, it buzzed again. Another unknown number. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, my phone was vibrating nonstop. As if hundreds of calls were coming in simultaneously, I grabbed the phone. The screen froze. All it showed was one sentence. You left me. My blood ran cold. It wasn't Lena's voice. It wasn't even a woman. It sounded like several voices talking at once, layered, distorted, broken. The phone died instantly. I sat there in the dark ambulance, heart thudding like a drum, palms sweating. That's when the dispatcher radio chirped. Unit 5, we have a medical emergency. Possible jumper. Central Phoenix high-rise 46th floor. Are you available? I froze. 46th floor. The same building. The same floor. the same nightmare I swore I'd never return to. My finger hovered over the radio. I should have said, "Not available." I should have said, "Send another unit." I should have done anything except what I did. I pressed the button. Unit 5 en route. The drive into Phoenix felt like descending back into a place I barely escaped from the first time the city lights were hazy through the dust clouds, and every mile closer felt like stepping deeper into someone else's grave. When I arrived at the building, police were already outside, but none were entering. 2 officers stood near the front doors, pale and visibly rattled. One of them turned to me. "You're the medic?" "Yeah." "What's the situation?" He swallowed. "Someone reported a woman standing on the 46th floor balcony. But we checked the building roster." I already knew what he was going to say. "No one lives there," I finished quietly. He nodded. "Building's been empty since last year. Same unit where that domestic homicide happened." Lena, I stepped past them. My legs felt heavy, like they were moving through cold mud. The elevator doors slid open just like before. Silent, smooth, too welcoming. The button panel glowed in a way that made my skin crawl. I pressed 46. The elevator began to rise. Halfway up, the lights flickered and everything went dark. The elevator stopped. Total silence. No humming motor, no airflow. Just empty darkness pressing against my ears. My phone lit up inside my pocket, even though the battery had been dead earlier. A notification, new voicemail. 46 seconds, I pressed play. Static roared through the speaker. Then a voice, low, broken, warped like a corrupted recording. "You shouldn't have left her." My breath caught another voice layered beneath it. "You walked away." Then dozens, hundreds, voices overlapping. "Help us. You see us. You hear us. You left us. You never came back. You never answered." My heart pounded against my ribs. I hit stop, but the recording kept playing. The voices grew louder, faster, more furious. I pressed every button on the phone. Nothing worked. It kept playing, kept accusing, kept echoing like the dead were crawling out of the speaker. Then one voice cut through the noise. Clear. Familiar, Lena. "He's here." The elevator lights blinked back on. The doors opened. Into the dark penthouse. Not the hallway. Not the lobby. Directly into the damn penthouse. But the room wasn't empty like the report said. The air was thick, heavy, suffocating. A cold mist crawled across the marble floor like fingers reaching upward. And on the far side, standing near the balcony window, was a silhouette. Tall. Rigid. Wearing that same fake sheriff's uniform, Hollister. But his face, it wasn't a face anymore. It was a smudged blur, like someone had erased his features with charcoal. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a dark, hollow smear where a face should be. My pulse hammered. He turned toward me. Not by moving his head, but by the entire room tilting around him like reality itself was bending to follow his presence. I stepped backward. But the elevator doors slammed shut behind me. Hollister took a step forward. The floor beneath him darkened. Spreading, pulsing. Like black water leaking from a broken pipe. Then the voices returned. Not from the room. From everywhere. "He keeps us. We can't leave. Help us. Help us. Help us." Shapes began emerging from the shadows on the walls. Faces pressed against the surface like they were trapped inside the paint itself. Dozens of them. Eyes wide. Mouths open. Silent screams. I stumbled backward, heart slamming, searching desperately for an exit. But the penthouse was wrong. Different. Twisted. Every door led to another dark room. Every hallway curved back on itself. Every window showed nothing but fog. I wasn't in the building anymore. I was somewhere else entirely. A prison built from echoes and death. The air turned ice cold. my breath fogged in front of me. Then I heard her. Lena. Right behind me. "Turn around," she whispered. I did. She stood just a foot away, gray, translucent, trembling, her arms wrapped around herself as if trying to hold her broken form together. "You came back," she said softly. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry." "It's not your fault," she said. But her eyes darted toward the shadowed corner where Hollister stood, towering and motionless. "He keeps us here. All of us. The ones he hurt, the ones he killed, the ones he chased. We can't leave unless someone alive takes our place." My spine turned to ice. "What do you mean?" She shook her head. "You shouldn't have returned." Suddenly, Hollister moved, not walking, appearing. One moment across the room, next moment inches from my face. That erased, smudged face staring directly into me. Then I heard it. A voice inside my skull. "You're staying." His hand, cold as a frozen grave, wrapped around my throat. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Darkness crept into my vision. The walls pulsed with the trapped souls screaming silently for release. Everything went black, until a sudden blast of light filled the room, a flashlight. A real one. "Medic! Can you hear me?" I gasped and collapsed, sucking in air like a drowning man. 2 Phoenix PD officers stood over me. The penthouse was empty. Normal. Dusty. No Hollister. No faces in the walls. No trapped souls. Just me lying on the living room floor, shaking uncontrollably. They said they found the elevator stuck between floors and pried it open manually. Said I was unconscious when they reached me. Said I must have fainted. But I know the truth. Before the officers carried me out, I turned toward the stairs and saw a faint shape standing there. It was Lena. She whispered one last thing. "Thank you for trying." Then she faded, and behind her, just for a second, I saw another shape. Hollister, watching, waiting, not gone, not defeated, still hunting. Some nights, when the desert wind rattles my windows, I hear the static again. And sometimes, I swear I hear Lena's voice through it. Sometimes soft, sometimes broken, sometimes terrified, and sometimes warning. Don't answer. He's still looking for you. My partner, Alex, and I had been running night shifts in suburban Atlanta for nearly 6 years when we got the call that would haunt me forever. It was a Tuesday in late October, around 11:45 p.m., when dispatch sent us to 2219 Magnolia Drive for a cardiac arrest. On paper, a routine call, but the second we pulled up, something felt off. The house was a modest, single-story brick home tucked behind tall oaks. Normally, neighbors would be outside, watching or waving, but the street was empty, the lawn overgrown, and a stack of newspapers pressed against the front door like a silent warning. I grabbed the med bag, while Alex carried the monitor. The door was unlocked, swinging open without resistance. The moment I stepped inside, the air hit me. A strange mixture of sweetness and decay. Something had gone wrong hours, maybe days ago. In the living room, Mr. Lawrence Kent slumped in his recliner, the remote still in his hand. The TV was paused on a soap opera, the flickering light casting distorted shadows across the room. It was clear he had been gone for a while. Protocol took over. We called it in to dispatch as a DOA and checked for anything unusual. Nothing seemed out of place, just an elderly man who passed away alone. But the question nagged me. How had anyone called 911 in the first place? I radioed dispatch to confirm. Carla, our dispatcher, sounded confused. She said the caller had been precise, giving the exact address, claiming chest pains, trouble breathing. A male voice, old, matching Mr. Kent's age. My gaze swept the house. The landline next to Kent's chair was unplugged. Even the kitchen phone had been wrapped and tucked neatly behind the wall outlet. No cell phones anywhere. We searched the home while waiting for the coroner. Nothing. No tablet, no mobile devices, nothing at all. Dorothy, a neighbor in her 70s who had brought groceries weekly, mentioned that Mr. Kent didn't trust technology. He believed phones were dangerous, that they mess with your brain. She hadn't seen him since Monday. That lined up with our estimate of time of death. When the coroner arrived, we packed up, but the puzzle stayed with me. How could the calls have come from a man who wasn't alive? 4 days later, same shift. Carla's voice came over the radio, now edged with panic. Another cardiac arrest. Same street. Same house. 2219 Magnolia Drive. Alex nearly swerved the ambulance. Mr. Kent was sitting in the county morgue, body cold. Waiting for arrangements, Carla insisted on a caller. Same male voice, same symptoms. We drove there anyway. The house was empty, taped off, dark, silent. Alex called dispatch from his personal cell. Carla played the recording. Mr. Kent's voice, or a perfect replica. The hair on my arm stood straight up. The calls didn't stop. Every night at exactly 11:45, the dispatcher's voice would tense, repeating the same emergency. Some dispatchers heard him gasping, pleading. Others heard him calm, almost scripted. ET traced the calls. Every lead led back to a line officially disconnected months prior. It was like the calls were bouncing inside the 911 system itself, echoing, trapped. By the second week, the story had spread. Officers parked outside the home, waiting. Realtors refused to enter after dark. Alex avoided nights, saying it got to him. But I volunteered. I needed to see, to understand. I sat in the ambulance bay at 11:30, waiting dispatch keyed up. Same address, same emergency, yet silence inside the house. Dust, old carpet, a faint smell beneath it. No voice. Nothing. Neighbors offered fragmented clues. Most barely knew Mr. Kent. Then Gregory Fields, who lived 2 doors down, mentioned seeing someone who claimed to be Kent's son visiting at 11 p.m., nights before his death. Odd, because Dorothy insisted Mr. Kent had no children. The visitor always wore a baseball cap low, stayed about 20 minutes, parked on the street. Something about this didn't sit right with me. The next morning, I obtained Kent's medical records. Heart medication prescribed months ago, yet someone had been picking up his prescriptions regularly after his last visit. Signatures varied, sometimes neat, sometimes scrawled. Pharmacist remembered a young man claiming to be his son, always paying cash. The description matched the neighbor's account perfectly. I involved Detective Mark Hayes, who owed me a favor. He dug deeper. What we discovered was disturbing. The calls weren't originating from 911 systems naturally. Someone was injecting them through a maintenance port used by the local telecom. With the right setup, calls could appear to come from any disconnected line. Security footage showed a man in a telecom uniform entering the building nightly, sitting at a terminal, leaving 7 minutes later. Uniform and badge appeared legitimate, but the ID belonged to a man who had died 2 years prior. The son was actually someone else. Whoever it was had a perfect knowledge of both the house and 911 systems. When our investigation neared the truth, the call stopped. The man disappeared. Alex never returned to those night shifts. I stayed, obsessed, trying to understand the calls never came again. But I still think about them. Voices from the dead, trapped in an endless loop, reaching for help that never arrived in time. I couldn't shake the image of the empty house at 2219 Magnolia Drive. Every night I drove past, the lawn unkempt, shadows from the street lamps stretching across the cracked pavement. There was something about the place, some energy, that made my stomach twist. I knew I had to go back inside, had to see if there was anything left that could explain the impossible. With permission from the new owners, young couple moving in after Kent's estate was settled, I told them I was checking for leftover medical equipment or supplies. They seemed relieved, happy that someone was making sure the home was ready. But I wasn't there for that. I sat in Mr. Kent's old recliner at 11:20 p.m., the same chair where I first found him, the clock ticking toward 11:45. I recorded everything on my phone, my hands trembling as I stared at the unplugged phone on the side table. 11:44. 11:45. Nothing. Silence. Only the hum of the refrigerator and the faint squeak of the house settling. I sighed, doubting my own sanity, and began walking through the house. Dust motes danced in the weak light from the street lamps outside. That's when I noticed it. Tiny scratches on the floorboards near the recliner, like something heavy had been dragged across them recently. I traced them down the hallway toward the kitchen, where the old phone lines ran. And then I saw it. Faint but distinct fingerprints on the wall jack cover. Fresh. My pulse spiked. Someone had been here after all. But who? The idea that it could be Mr. Kent himself, somehow reaching out from beyond death, made my skin crawl. The next day, I revisited Detective Hayes. He had dug deeper into the telecom employee who had been entering the building nightly. His name, Jonathan Mills. Age 42. Background check showed he'd been fired years ago for equipment theft, disappeared months ago after violating parole. But this wasn't just theft. This was obsession. Mills targeted isolated elderly people, learning their routines, their fears, and their weaknesses. The calls, the voice mimicking, everything was part of a larger plan. Mills had been using recordings of Mr. Kent's voice, fed through a synthesizer, to create the nightly calls. The goal? To make it appear that the man had been alive, suffering, hoping someone would fail to respond in time. A twisted game of control, using the 911 system as his weapon. But why? Detective Hayes' theory made my stomach turn. Perhaps Mills wanted to instill fear, to make people question the reliability of emergency services. Or maybe he was just experimenting, seeing how far he could go without being caught. Weeks turned into months. The house sold. New tenants moved and no strange calls, no midnight echoes. But the memory stayed with me. I started obsessively checking dispatch logs, cross-referencing addresses, noticing patterns, isolated elderly victims, homes previously targeted, sometimes calls reported long after death. It was as if Mills, or someone like him, was setting up a chain reaction, leaving ghost voices behind and a system meant to save lives. One night, nearly a year later, I was off duty, sitting at home when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Heart racing, I answered. Silence, except for a faint hiss, static at first, then a whisper so familiar I nearly dropped the phone. Please, help me. My hands went cold. It wasn't a recording. It wasn't Mills. It was something else. Something unresolved. Something tethered to those last moments Mr. Kent had tried to reach out. I didn't answer. I haven't since. I retired from night shifts not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't bear the thought of hearing it again. Those calls, the echo of lives trapped in the final moment, replaying endlessly, left a mark I couldn't erase. Every time I drive past Magnolia Drive, I see kids playing, dogs chasing balls, neighbors waving. Life continues as if nothing ever happened. But I know better. Somewhere, maybe through some glitch, some trick of technology, some unseen force, those voices remain, crying for help, stuck in a loop, waiting for someone who will finally get it right, And I wonder if one day I'll hear that whisper again, calling me back to answer, to finally listen. Most nights as a paramedic tend to blur together, the adrenaline fading into routine after years of 12-hour shifts. That Tuesday in late July, though, was different. My partner, Ryan, had called in sick with some stomach bug, and dispatch paired me with a rookie named Tyler, fresh out of the academy, barely a month on the job. We were parked outside a 24-hour gas station on Hickory Lane, sipping lukewarm coffee and joking quietly when the call came in. 2:32 a.m. Female voice, calm but urgent, reporting a fainting incident at 1892 Rosewood Drive Nothing. In the call itself was alarming, just another suburban medical emergency. But something about the house stopped me cold. Rosewood Drive was the kind of neighborhood where every home was a mirror of the next. 2-story colonials, identical mailboxes, garages with freshly painted doors. Number 1892 stood out though, not for the house itself, but for the lights. Every window was lit, each bulb pulsing on and off in an erratic, almost rhythmic pattern, like some silent strobe. Tyler grabbed the stretcher from the rig while I hefted the jump bag over my shoulder. That's when I noticed the front door, cracked open about 6 inches, swaying gently in the breeze. No car in the driveway, no one peering from the windows. "Paramedics!" I called out, announcing ourselves. Nothing. Then I heard it, a thin, flat voice coming from somewhere upstairs. "Please, hurry!" It wasn't the panicked tone you'd expect from a real emergency. It was eerily calm, almost rehearsed. Tyler hesitated by the door, staring nervously. I moved inside, my heart pounding. The house smelled sterile, like a model home. Everything arranged but utterly lifeless. No photos, no shoes, no sign anyone actually lived here. The lights flickered in sequence, as if the entire house were breathing. I rushed up the stairs, following the voice. Each room I passed was empty, not just of people, but of furniture. The master bedroom door was cracked open, spilling warm yellow light into the hallway. There, on the king-size bed, was a laptop, open, playing the voice I'd just heard. The audio file repeated endlessly, time-stamped just 10 minutes earlier. Curious, I clicked around. A minimized browser window revealed the county's emergency dispatch portal. Our current call, our live call, was there. Someone had been watching, monitoring, studying how we respond, learning our language, our timing, the way we announced ourselves. The laptop camera blinked. A green .a video chat application ran in the background, recording. I backed away slowly, radio in hand, ready to call for backup. Before I could, the audio file stopped mid-phrase. And then, my own voice, from just moments ago, echoed back. "Paramedics, we're here." Whoever was on the other end had been recording us since we arrived. I yelled at Tyler to get back to the rig, but the front door slammed with enough force to shake the entire house. Lights out. Only the laptop's sick blue glow remained, still recording, still watching. I moved along the wall, muscle memory guiding me in the darkness, calling dispatch frantically. Footsteps. Not panicked or hurried, but slow, deliberate. Moving toward us, I froze. The laptop suddenly played a new audio file, a scream of terror layered beneath casual chatter, laughter even, like someone treating our panic as entertainment. At the bottom of the stairs, a man stood, calm, observing, hand raised in a casual wave, commenting on how authentic our reactions were. 2 others trailed behind, one adjusting a camera, another taking notes. I didn't wait. A window at the end of the upstairs hallway, a thick-framed old glass window, was my only exit. Heart hammering, I slammed my shoulder against it until the paint splintered. I forced it open, squeezing through just as the man's voice muttered about property damage, disappointed in my rule-breaking. Landing hard on the lawn, rolling to absorb the impact, I bolted toward the rig Tyler was struggling with, the chains wrapped around the back doors. Sirens approached. The figures from the house stood at the window, observing, filming. We scrambled inside just as police lights bathed the street. By the time officers secured the house, it was empty. The laptop sat on the bed, video chat closed, browser history wiped clean. The police traced the laptop to a batch stolen from a warehouse months prior. No leads on the culprits. The call had originated from a burner phone, purchased with cash, activated just long enough for that single call Tyler quit the next week, citing trauma. I requested a transfer to a station across town. I wasn't ready to stop being a paramedic, but I wasn't about to walk blindly into another experiment. 2 months later, I received an email on my personal account. No subject, just a video attachment. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Footage from that night, edited professionally, multiple angles, timestamps, even my vital signs captured and overlaid. At the end, text appeared. Thank you for your participation. We've got what we need, one-time study. The email deactivated immediately. Police traced it through dozens of proxy servers, a dead end. I moved stations, different city, but the memory lingered. Every empty house, every open door, every late-night call made me second-guess reality. Were there other studies going on? Other teams being trapped, tested, observed? Even now, years later, I keep a close eye on unusual addresses, wondering if another rookie or veteran paramedic is unknowingly walking into someone's game. Someone out there is still timing us, studying our language, our reactions, and maybe, just maybe, they're learning how long it takes for us to realize we're no longer there to save anyone. Rural Montana wasn't where I imagined I'd land after paramedic school, but somehow, life has a way of planting you exactly where you're needed. Sometimes before you even realize why my classmates were chasing trauma center jobs in cities like Denver, Seattle, Portland. I took the first offer I found, a small, understaffed station covering 3 counties, where the most exciting calls were tractor accidents or grandpa forgetting his meds. 7 years in, I'd settled into a rhythm. Long drives between calls, familiar faces, the predictable emergencies that made me feel useful. That Thursday night in early September changed everything. Made me question whether some calls are meant to be answered at all. My partner, Derek, had been sick all evening. Thanks to some tainted seafood from a truck stop, I was on the night shift alone when dispatch came through at 11:30 p.m. A young voice, maybe 9 or 10, was calling frantically. His father wasn't moving. Please hurry. The address was out on County Road 47, the old Hawthorne property, a derelict farmhouse that had cycled through at least a dozen owners since I started this job. 45 minutes of dark, winding roads across farmland that looked identical in every direction. GPS kept trying to reroute me through paths that didn't exist anymore. Finally, I found the property. Mailbox a crooked, gravel driveway half overgrown, the house looming in shadow. Every window was dark except for a faint yellow glow in what seemed like the living room. A boy stood near the gate, frozen in place. When my headlights swept across him, he didn't move. Not a twitch. Not a blink. He had a bowl cut, a green jacket that swallowed his hands, and jeans rolled up like he was trying to make them fit. He walked toward me with precise, measured steps. "Thank you for coming the way my grandmother taught me to greet guests," he said, voice flat but oddly formal. "My dad's in the living room." He turned toward the house without waiting for me to respond. The walk to the porch couldn't have lasted more than 30 seconds, yet every step felt wrong, like I'd lost the ground beneath me. Dead leaves crunched, echoing unnaturally in the quiet night. The porch had a swing, rusted and creaking as though it might collapse any moment. The front door was ajar 6 inches. Warm air leaked out into the cold Montana night. "He fell about an hour ago," the boy said, pushing the door wider with his shoulder. His hand stayed buried in his jacket pockets. Inside, the house smelled like old coffee and something metallic underneath. Hallway floors creaked beneath my boots. Faded wallpaper, once cheerful yellow flowers, now looking sad, like the house itself was mourning. The boy led me past the staircase into darkness and past closed doors, straight to an archway. He stopped. Without looking, he gestured inside. "That's him," he said, voice flat. A man lay face down on a braided rug, one arm stretched toward the coffee table, the other twisted unnaturally under his torso. Work clothes, worn denim, plaid shirt, scuffed boots. I dropped beside him, gloves snapping on, checklist running through my mind. Neck, airway, pulse. Cool skin, not cold. Time down uncertain. The boy remained in the doorway, eyes unnaturally still, his breathing measured, deliberate, almost counting. I turned the man's head to check his airway when his hand shot up, grabbing my wrist with strength he shouldn't have had. Eyes wide, pupils dilated, mouth opening, wheezing, thin voice whispering, "Don't trust him." His fingers dug into my skin, then his eyes rolled toward the boy in the doorway. "He's not my son," he gasped, each word painfully slow. Then something impossible happened. The boy's voice shifted, dropping 2 octaves, mechanical, repeating the exact words from the 911 call. "My dad's not moving. Please send someone. He's in the living room and won't wake up. Please hurry." The man went limp, body collapsing like a puppet with its strings cut. The boy? Gone. Air thick with the smell of old coffee and metal. Footsteps echoed above us, deliberate, methodical, across the upper floor. My radio crackled. Static first, then the boy's voice. "Is someone coming? My dad needs help." My throat tightened. Couldn't respond. Then the transmission shifted. My voice, exactly what I'd said when arriving. "Unit 7 on scene proceeding to patient." Above me, footsteps stopped. Wet, labored breathing seeped through the ceiling. The man's body twitched, limbs jerking unnaturally. Mouth opened, voice changing. Cycles of child, elderly woman, panicked man. Voices I recognized, distorted, all pouring from one body. Whatever haunted this house had been gathering emergency calls, learning, anticipating, using desperation as bait. I bolted. Front door slammed as I reached it. Deadbolt clicked shut by itself. Behind me, the boy laughed. My laugh, distorted, recorded from some past call. Lights flickered, shadows moving independent of objects. Radio cycled through my voice from past calls, creating a nightmarish chorus. I grabbed a chair, smashed it through the window, blood cutting my arms, anything to escape. Outside, silence. The house dark. Ambulance untouched. Keys in ignition. I drove off, reporting the patient DOA and requesting law enforcement. 2 hours later, the sheriff's department found the house empty. No one, no furniture, nothing. Only an old 80s answering machine in the basement, playing decades of emergency calls in a loop. They destroyed it. Calls stopped. But now, during night shifts, I hear that faint mechanical echo in remote caller voices. a perfect repetition of phrases. A reminder, whatever was in that house didn't die with the answering machine. It simply found a new way to lure paramedics who rush when someone cries for help.